my home. Completely understand. As a firm, we will not take any project that even suggests that folks are going to lose their homes or be displaced. We have never worked on any of those kinds of projects. Before we will accept a project, we get some general understandings that movement must even be minimal if we do that. So, all right, so currently we're in San Francisco. In San Francisco, there are two developments we're currently working in right now. One is Hunter's View, and the other is Alice Griffin.
Wait a minute. Sorry. Hunter's View and Alice Griffin.
Yep.
So you're talking about West Point and Double Rock.
That's correct. West Point and Double Rock. Somebody familiar. All right, so yes.
I see the picture right there. I live right there, man.
There we go.
You know what I'm saying?
So the number one issue that folks have when we started this project some years ago was the same issue, right? They have the same exact issue that you have. You are on prime real estate. And you have every reason to be concerned that if someone is talking about developing this, it might not be in your best interest. It's valid. I get it. All right? Folks at Alice Griffin, aka Double Rock, had these same exact issues. The same people over at Hunter's View had the same exact issues. If you come and you stand in certain spots, you actually think that you're looking at the same view. I can tell you right now today that not one individual was moved off of these properties as a result of their rebuild. All of these pictures were taken at 8 o'clock this morning. All right? I believe in real-time conversations. I have no idea. All right? So, this again is not an endorsement of this project or the way that they did this project. This is just an example that says, if you don't want to be moved, you don't have to be moved. And it is their job to figure out how to do it without moving you. Clear? All right. So, enough of the pictures. I'll move that later. No part about that. All right. One last part. All right. Because I know that trust is really, really hard to come by. So this letter that I will make a copy of and make sure everybody has it if you want it is from the president of the resident council at Alice Griffin, aka Double Rock, the treasurer at Hunter's View, aka West Point, the secretary of Oakdale. What's the name of Oakdale? Okay. So we got Alice Griffin, Hunter's View, West Point, and Oakdale.
Got that North Ridge too?
North Ridge already did this. All right. All saying this. All right. As the president of Alice Griffin, the Tenant Association, representing 3,112 residents, joined by council members from Hunter's View and Oakdale, we formally and wholeheartedly support your participation in this discussion and what happens in your development. Not too long ago, we were in the same situation in the city, talking about redeveloping our housing. Like you, our housing sits on prime real estate. We had major concerns that we would be moved and lose our homes or our homes taken from us. The city had never done anything to help us before. We had no reason to believe that they were going to now. We came to the table because Dwayne and RJ team, who made sure our voices were heard and our concerns addressed. They held the city accountable to the commitments and made sure residents were not moved out. The Redevelopment Agency, Housing Authority, Mayor's Office held lots of meetings with residents to explain the project in great detail and gather community input. Those of us, particularly by those of us who were impacted most. We clearly understand the opportunity that is before you as it relates to public housing, affordable housing, jobs, education, parks, and the environment. As the president of the Resident Council, I attend national meetings and resident council trainings, and HUD makes it clear that they don't have the money to keep up maintenance and services needed by residents. We know RDJ can help find a way to keep you there and get you the services you need. Again, we don't trust a lot of people, but they are about helping us. So, all I'm saying is that there is no hidden agenda. I am simply here to facilitate a conversation, not to pick the path that you choose, but you all have to participate fully in the process so that you can actually make a decision in the end. Because this is what we do know for certain. You can no longer ignore the issue that your buildings need work, right? So at some point, and I don't care which you decide, you have to acknowledge the fact that your buildings need work. Housing Authority seems to have done a great job of making the outside look fantastic. But you heard the report, I think a week ago, that would suggest that the inner workings are not all that fantastic and will at some point stop working altogether. So this is what I believe. I believe that you engage in a process so that you actually have control over a process. Because if you wait too long, you won't have any control over a process anymore, and they start just doing things just because they have to do things. All right? So I ask for your participation in accordance with the rules and principles that Salim laid out. Please be very respectful, because this is an important topic that's going to impact folks that live there and impact folks in the surrounding areas as well. So for my own comfort, I asked Lewis to help us pull this meeting together so that I could actually ask some personal questions, just so that I'm 100% clear that what I signed up for is what we're actually doing here. All right? About that.
No.
Oh, go ahead. All right, Lisa.
Ms. Ashby, can we wait 1 second? I want to walk through the handout. I'm sorry?
I'll lose my train of thought.
There is a comment. There is a yellow comment card on your chair.
Before that, I don't know if you did it, but I think we should open with prayer.
Oh, thank you.
We can do that.
Amen.
Would you like to lead us?
No, ma'am.
We have clergy in the house.
Miss Royce. Miss Royce.
Okay, there we go.
Thank you.
We want to stand as we just spoke to. Yes. Oh, yeah. Oh. Go ahead.
Heavenly Father, we come to you once more and again in the mighty name of Jesus. We thank you, I thank you, I thank you for this day. I thank you for this point in time. And Father God, I ask you to only let your divine will be done on earth as it is in heaven in this situation. And I just want to thank you, Lord, because you know all about it. This belongs to you.
Hiya!
Oh, yes, Lord, in the name of Jesus. And you know that we are your people in the mighty name of Jesus. And I just pray, Father, that you just strengthen your people to stand for you in this time of trouble that is facing our community in the mighty name of Jesus. And let your holy angels just come through and just take full charge of this meeting. And what the enemy may mean for evil, I praise you for making it for the good. In Jesus' name.
Amen. Ms. Ashby, thank you.
Thank you, Royce. Appreciate that. Before I walk through these, we have working group members in the house tonight. If you are a working group member, please stand. If you're a resident working group member, please stand. I know we have a couple here. I'm sorry. The difference is that, and we're going to walk you through who are the people that serve on the working group. The working group is comprised mostly of residents from Golden Gate Village. There are service providers who either work in Golden Gate Village or provide services here in Marin City to Golden Gate Village residents. There are institutional, you guys can sit down now, thank you. And so I wanted them to stand up because you see their faces, right? You see who these people are. These are the people that you should be having conversations with when we're not doing working group meetings. You have questions, you have concerns, talk to your working group members. Come to a meeting. Our next meeting is June 22nd, next Monday. But everyone should have one of these. There should have been one of these in every chair. Aura.
Did you want all the working group members to stand, or only just the residents?
I thought everyone stood. So if you didn't stand first,
You said only the residents that live in.
Every working group member.
So
Everyone who is a working group member, please stand. Matter of fact, if you're a working group member, tell us your name and who you represent.
My name is Mary Davis, and I live here at Golden Gate Village, and I represent the residents.
Scott Anderson, the press partner.
Rosemary Moore, Vice President of the Golden Gate Village Resident Council.
Raisha Bro, and I represent the residents.
Michael Tabb, I chair the CDC.
Or Hathaway, I'm a public housing resident, and I'm on the RAB, the Resident Advisory Board.
Nicole Doran, and I represent the residents.
Thank you.
You missed a couple.
Oh, who'd I miss?
I didn't know it was official,
Oh,
but I've been invited.
you knew,
Josh Farrell, a resident, also on the school board.
And David.
David Hopkins. David's in the back.
Oh,
I'm David Hopkins, I'm a working resident.
you're what?
Working resident.
Didn't I see one other? Oh, Homer was here.
Yeah, Homer was here.
Homer Hall is also a working group member who, while not a current Golden Gate resident, village resident, has been a Golden Gate village resident and is currently on the Marin Housing Authority Board of Commissioners. So, these are representatives who live either in your development, some folks actually work in your development, or provide services to people in your development. Reach out to them. If you take a look at your handouts, everyone has handouts. The very first handout is a list of guiding principles that the MHA adopted almost, how many years ago?
Back in 2009.
In 2009, the Housing Authority adopted these guiding principles. In conjunction with who? Louis or Ilya?
They weren't here, the residents.
Thank you. In conjunction with the residents. Guiding principles. MHA is committed to honoring these principles in the working group process. At the very first meeting, the working group members went over these guiding principles. They broke down into small groups and they talked about how do we honor resident need and desire and use these guiding principles. Principles say, protect existing Golden Gate households. What's it say? Somebody help me.
Everything stays the same.
Okay,
Just fix up what's messed up.
that's one way to go, but yes, that's what that means. It means work with residents to protect existing households. Restore Golden Gate Village economic sustainability. Restore Golden Gate Village economic sustainability, which means that anything that happens needs to ensure that residents can achieve economic growth and stability. 3 is assure resident participation throughout planning and revitalization process. That means we do outreach every month, at least twice a month. Each and every one of you should get a handout or a flyer about a meeting. You will get, this is the next one that goes out. This is for the meeting next Monday. When you see it, make note of it. Come join us. There's information, my contact information is on here. There are email addresses on here. You can always give me a call or send me an email. The rest of the guiding principles are preserve historic Marin heritage, which means honor the culture and history of this community.
And buildings.
Thank you. And then 5 is promote high quality open space, and 6 is to collaborate with the Marin County community to expand economic development and job training education opportunities for Golden Gate Village residents. You have these in your hand. Share these with your other residents. This is what you use to help hold MHA accountable during this process. I saw a hand up.
Yeah, Lisa. I think we should go back to protect existing Golden Gate households.
Yeah.
So I'm clear, so if people are coming to me, I can
That means-
express it accurately.
Okay, so that means that we want to make sure that every household that currently exists in Golden Gate Village has an opportunity to stay in Golden Gate Village.
Okay.
That's what that means.
That's
Okay.
the wrong term.
Yeah,
You should say homes, period,
Well,
That's fine.
not household.
Okay,
yeah,
because they are homes. These are your homes. You're
Yes.
absolutely right.
The buildings
Forgive me.
stay intact. Fix up what's messed up.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
Next handout.
Well, I'm not done.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm really not.
No, go ahead.
Because when I look at the wording too, just to be sure, when we talk about households, so for instance, if we have a household of 4 people living in a household, are we talking, because it's different to talk about preserving the existing 300 units opposed to the existing households, because that may not be accurate. Is it?
No
Not really.
determination has been made about that yet. That's one
No,
of the
it has been always. Let me tell you
I'm
why.
gonna defer to Louis
Well,
on
let me
this.
do it. Because this is the point. Because a household, it may be designed one way that's documented on paper with the Marin housing, but in reality, we may have a relative that's living with us that's not on the lease. It may have been living there a long time and never been on the lease. So we should make it really clear that the households may not be, continue to exist as they are. Because you have to, and correct me if I'm wrong, do you have to qualify and be on the lease to
have a household, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then we
So-
should make
so
that point, because that's different.
So if I'm understanding what Michael was saying, what number 1 is speaking to those that are in public housing, in Golden Gate Village, officially on the lease in Golden Gate Village, has the opportunity to continue that.
Yeah,
Correct.
that's different.
Now, to Michael's point, and I think this process will also speak to that, those who may be there that aren't officially there, start working on a process so that they can too have housing of their own.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then-
So
then-
that- is
then
that
that's
clear?
good information,
Okay,
yeah. Then
right.
people that are not in a position can start either positioning themselves or
Right.
whatever the next plan is gonna be. But people should really understand that. It's not this, it won't be to protect the existing.
Exactly.
Because the existing is not everybody's. not
So
on the lease.
Dwayne can probably speak to situations over in San Francisco where there were people who weren't on the lease, and you all were made aware, agency was made aware of that. And we started working with them on credit, we started working with them on getting on the lease. Can you speak to that a little bit?
So I can, I'm going to try to be really, really brief, because I think that the question is valid, and you're absolutely right, but it makes the assumption that you all in the authority have made a decision about revitalization that we haven't made yet. So I want to be respectful of the fact that that decision hasn't been made, and so, but I can say, now that I've said that that decision has not been made here, I can say that in San Francisco, what we did, because we knew so far in advance that we could run credit restoration programs, we could run job training programs, we could figure out strategies to get folks who are not on the lease, so that the household conversation was a household conversation to be able to move folks, I guess in this case, across the street to the new unit that accommodated everybody in the household.
Okay, can I just do one thing? I want to walk just the other 2 things in your packet. One is a frequently asked question sheet. That's the colored sheet that has answers to some of the questions that we've been hearing repeatedly as we do outreach and that have come up at meetings. The final sheet is a list of current working group members, except for those who were just recently seated yes.
At this point, if somebody's been living with you and is not on the lease, when you disclose this, that's not grounds for them to evict you?
So I'm going to say this off the record. So no one's asking anybody to disclose anything right now. So what we want to
No,
do
I mean
is,
at that point, if it happens, you know, I'm just curious.
well, hopefully we're in a situation where we have a conversation about what your household really looks like, official and unofficial, and then we figure out what that strategy is to right side that, so it doesn't matter when you finally say, this is the deal, right? So again, there is a potential strategy or solution for every unique situation for each household, but unless we can actually have an honest discussion about those things, we can't plan for them, is all I'm saying. Yes, sir.
Yes, now, just like, okay, me and my brother would stay together, and for instance, like, the people that's in one household would stay like brothers. Okay, like now, you're not able to get your own place. We don't want to give, you know, me and my brother didn't want to give us our own place because we're family. So, at the time when you be able to, like, if someone want to get their own place,
so these are really, really good questions, right? And so the thing is this, is that there is not an exact science or an exact formula that says, yes, you can do that, no, you can't do that. Again, I want to continue to say that there has been no decision about what happens in the development yet. So even if it's a situation where you keep everything as is, then obviously that question wouldn't apply anymore, right? Because nothing is actually changing at that point. So I want to be respectful in the context that there are going to be questions we can't answer here yet because the decision of the development model hasn't been selected yet. If you at the end of the day decide that there is no new development model, then a lot of the questions go away at that point, and I don't really know what we do honestly because we got to figure out how to make repairs moving forward. Yes, ma'am.
My son was staying with me. Somebody told Housing Authority. I got a letter saying that they were made aware that he was staying there, and that was grounds for eviction. Now, you're saying that that doesn't count, but it does count because he had to move.
No, what I'm saying is, I'm not asking anyone to disclose who's living with who right now. That's what I'm asking everyone to do.
I didn't say anything. Someone else did.
All right, so I agree. So there are HUD rules and all that other stuff that is standard and overarching. I just want to be clear on this conversation is just about clearing up myth and rumor so that we can move a discussion to a final determination, whatever you all deem that determination.
That's not what
I just want to say that Royce has had her hand up for a really long time, and also someone else on that side. Could you call on Royce, please?
Excuse me.
Royce?
Yes, one thing that I do want to say is that it's supposed, we're talking about this, but there was also on the, what Lewis had said, a lot of people have issues with parking. That's number one. Number two, my question to you also is, when you said, oh, you know, if you just leave it alone, we're not really prepared, because in terms of making repairs. No, that's not correct. Because in terms of, you put it on out there, historic preservation of Golden Gate Village, I'm not ashamed to say it. So put it out there as one of the things from the residents. You don't have to keep it as
I can do that. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So yeah, just so we're clear, there are multiple housing models. Historic preservation is absolutely one of the models that you will hear, particularly if you come next week, is it? Next week, so I invite everybody right back here next week so we can have a full and complete discussion.
But parking was supposed to be one of the...
We're going to talk about parking.
Yes, we are.
But I just want to run through.
When are you going to talk about parking?
Well, here's the thing. Hold on, one second.
That's not a trick question. When are you going to talk about parking?
If we can, so this was the plan.
That's a yes or no answer.
Yes,
when are you going to talk about parking?
In exactly 30 minutes.
Okay.
Then say that. Why did it take all that for you to say 30 minutes?
That's what I'm saying. It's 30 minutes.
Why did it take you that long to say 30 minutes?
Because he might forget.
All right. So that we can honor that and get to the 30-minute mark, let's run through the myth and rumor so that we can squash that and get to what most of the folks or some of the folks have come here for, which is on the thing, right? So I just have 4 overarching questions that I need to hear Lewis respond to publicly in front of everyone else so that we can move forward with the discussion. All right? First question, Lewis. If you don't know, Lewis is the Director of Housing Authority here, right? That first question that I need to understand, and I want the residents and community members to understand is, does MHA have a revitalization or redevelopment plan?
No, we don't. We do not have a plan. The process for developing a plan starts with the working group. We We do not have a plan in place. We don't have developers. There's no RFPs. We just need to have a community conversation around the future of Golden Gate Village. What we know is that we have millions of dollars, 17 million in fact first year of capital needs. We only get $500,000 a year from HUD to be spread over 6 of our properties. The current funding model from the federal government, which is the only model we have to work with, that current funding model doesn't work. And there's a need to have a community conversation about alternatives to the current model.
Next question, don't go anywhere. Will residents lose their homes in a revitalization process or by engaging in this discussion?
So the short answer is no. If you go back to the guiding principles that Lisa read off earlier, the #1 principle spoke to protect existing Golden Gate households. In this process, and I need to be very, very clear, we're understanding of the anxiety that people have based on what you see and what you read other places. We know that this is a unique community. So the #1 thing at the top of our list is whatever we do it with a minimal movement of people. So that can look a number of different ways, but at the top of the list, we have to be cognizant of the formal and informal processes. So knowing that, you know, it's a small community, people rely on each other, you pick up each other's kids, you know, you do things collectively together, and we know how important that is. And so therefore, whatever we do, because again, I'll go back to that big number I just mentioned, that's a given. But whatever we do, we have to address that, but keep in mind how that impacts you. And that's at the top of our list. So what that means is that that strategy could take us a lot longer than normal because we're cognizant of the impact it may have.
So in a model in which revitalization occurs, does MHA have relocation dollars?
We do not. There are no relocation dollars at all.
What does that mean?
That means that we don't have money. So for example, when you talk about displacement and moving people out, so in some communities, vouchers have been given out to move people. We don't have any of them. We're in a stage. Well, we just, again, I just said that at the top of our list is not to move people out. Yeah, that's what our focus is.
It's not to move people out.
At the top of our list is to have minimal impact on movement. Minimal impact. Well, see guys, I can't say that because we don't know what we're going to do. Okay, well maybe
I just want to say, representing the people, I'm representing y'all tonight. I am your vice president, and y'all. But I just want to say that back in last year, our board voted for historic preservation of Golden Gate Village and for the property to be brought up to 21st century standards. And in so doing, and we're still working on this, there is over $14 million of ARRA funds from Obama that were earmarked for Marin County and that have not been spent. And it has to be re-obligated by September of this year. So when we have a strategist, I'm not in this by myself, we have a strategist who has worked around the country and around the world in working with community groups. And just met her in terms of through Aura, and from that she's decided to spend time and to work with us and make all connections for us, which she has done. And so that $14 million, Royce didn't know anything about it. She found the money. And so we went to Lewis, showed him he was on his way to Washington, and to check when he got to Washington. So we were told later that first the money didn't exist. So our strategists researched that it does exist. Then we were then told, yes, it's there, but it can't be re-obligated. So we did the research and to find out, in fact, there's precedent that has been set that those funds have been re-obligated.
So, when it's
no, but I'm representing the residents.
I know,
so
I'm just trying to honor this man's question about trying to get to 30 minutes. I promise him we'd be done with this thing by 30 minutes, so I'm just trying to keep on.
Yeah, but I know they
don't use me for a yardstick, let her speak.
But people need to know that we are doing something for our residents. We're not laying down prior to you even getting hired. Right after our board, even before we had a board, this was the direction that I was going in terms of, because of the property. That property is historic eligible. And next week I will have the proof to show that it is historic eligible. 3 categories out of 4. And when they dug that hole last week, I said, too bad we can't, they'll have enough nerve to get in that mud and look where some idiot is. Then that would have been 4 out of 4. Okay, I will tell, there's more to it in terms of there is money there. We have to, and Huffman was pushing us to the back until we went up to the Civic Center. And after we went to the Civic Center and it was in the newspaper, now his office wants to talk with us. If they pay $21 million to repair the Civic Center, which preceded Golden Gate Village, done by the same 3 people, Frank Lloyd Wright, Aaron Green, and Vera Schultz. If they don't pay $21 million to repair the roof of the Civic Center, they could fine, and I'm not talking to Louis George, but the Board of Supervisors can fine that $15, $16, $17 million to preserve this the way that it should be preserved, like they do in the Civic Center. Anything other than that, we're here tonight to encourage, because I may not say another word tonight, don't have to, but I'm encouraging everybody here to please, in Jesus' name, come up to the Civic Center. That's where it's all about. They have their own development team that we are requesting a resident to sit with them, only as it relates to Golden Gate Village. So we go through this, but the decision is with the folks up at the Civic Center, our supervisors. So we will know more about the when and where. It was on the 2nd when we were there. Who knows when it's going to be. But everybody needs to be here, like the people of Marinwood, the people of Strawberry, the people at Cam Valley that said to the county, no, you're not going to build that in our neighborhood. And they meant it. And the county board of supervisors took the PDA off of all 3 of them communities. We are not going to be their dumping ground. Amen. We are going to maintain our homes. And anything short of that, tell us to bring it. No place to go. Look what's happening all around the country.
That's right.
And we would be no different.
So again, she talked about that meeting. Again, I want to make sure that everybody in this room here's her full presentation on historical preservation for this particular site. That meeting is next Monday. Next Monday, she will have the entire floor to talk in great detail about every element of the plan. So please come back next week. All right? Well, thank you, Roy. To answer your last question about relocation, even in the context of historical preservation, if your unit requires a certain level of work, there will still be minimal?
No. In 1977, when the Housing Authority did major renovation to our units, from the floors to the plumbing to the electrical to turning our tubs so we could take a shower so that we had heat all throughout our house, we never left our unit. Never. We suffered through it, and we better suffer through this, because you know they got a plan.
So keep in mind. All right, we're going to keep rolling so that I can honor my man's commitment.
Here, this lady here, excuse me.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all that's fine and dandy, but what are we gonna do for these ladies that's in here? These girls, that babies having babies, and then women's ain't got nowhere to go, nothing to do. Idle hands is the devil workshop. And these guys, I mean, housing moving all these people in from out, and they're starting the shit, and that's why the shooting is going on, and this is going on.
All right. So, earlier in the sections of the meetings, we had a service strategy meeting. So again, it does not matter what redevelopment or what rebuild or historical preservation model you choose. You still need to have a complementary service strategy to go along with that. So whether it's about youth services, senior services, job training, that should go on regardless of the model that you pick moving forward. All right? Just want to jump back to the question.
I guess, and to that end, if you look at what historically HUD funded in the way of youth program, in the way of various things that our federal government gave us dollars to help residents with, we don't get those dollars anymore. Those dollars are gone. And so again, as we move forward and talk about what that strategy could and should be, a very, very significant part of that has to be services that we provide. After-school programs, job training programs, various education programs that today the federal government just does not give us the money. When I came here, some of you talked about different programs that you were responsible for over time throughout history. And you said, where did those programs go? Well, those programs left because money left. And there's no, our single focus of funding right now is HUD, and we just don't get enough money.
The budget meeting.
Yeah, so the budget, so again, at our last working group meeting, there were some questions about the MHA budget, what we get, how we spend money. Next week when we have our working group meeting, we're going to start the working group meeting an hour early. So if people want to come, I'm going to have our CFO come, and she's going to walk through a process showing every dollar we get and how we spend those dollars. And that'll be next month. Okay, let me get back to you.
Another question that we hear constantly. Will MHA sell land to a private developer?
Not at all. Not at all. There's something called a declaration of trust. This declaration of trust is the agreement that the Housing Authority has with HUD. And that declaration of trust says that on Golden Gate property, there will always be 300 affordable units or 300 public housing units. There will always be those 300 units there. So no, we cannot sell land to a private developer. And we must keep a minimum, or we must keep that 300 there.
But that don't stop you from building high-density housing to come in compliance with whatever low-income requirement is called. And what you'll do is you'll take the existing property and build high-density housing, meaning smaller apartments, so they can say they have 300 units, and what they'll do is say, we comply. We're not telling you that part.
So, sir, that's exactly why
we're not telling you that part.
We don't need that.
That's exactly why we need you at the working group meetings, so that everybody can have that real conversation about
well,
that.
Then tell them that now.
It's real talk. Everybody's not here for that.
Well, you can say something now.
Yes, ma'am.
With you and us as Virginia, why we have such distrust.
Okay.
Because of a past history that was told to us how you tore down running rooms, a lot of places in Chicago, you had the hands that tearing it down. So that's what makes people really believe that you have a hand in trying to tear us down. That's right. So you have to build this from the ground up, like you do with everything else, to get everybody's trust to really believe that you're not trying to tear their homes up, or you're not trying to displace them.
I can appreciate that, and I'm going to work extra hard to try and build that trust.
All right, so I got one more question, and then we can segue.
Yeah, we can
All
talk
right.
about other stuff.
So last question is gentrification imminent, and will history be lost here in Marin City?
So gentrification is not imminent, and history will not be lost. See, a part of these processes, we talk about things like history. You know, this is a community that was built on shipyard, you know, the Rosie the Riveters, things of that nature. You know, a part of the conversation can be, what is it that we can do to have that visibly displayed? You know, someone asked a question earlier about why were the names changed in developments in San Francisco. You know, well, someone suggested that.
I said, why did they change it then?
Okay, I use that as an example, Ms. Davis, because out of a process, we may say we want to call this something different, or we may not say we want to call it something different. Out of a process, we may say that, you know, let's put a big ship anchor out to show that, you know, that this community was built as a result of people who worked in blood, sweat, and tears in the process of building ships. There's so many conversations that we can have. Again, the only thing that we know right now is that we have a tremendous amount of capital needs, and we have to find a way to address it.
You speak on history, but do you know the history of Marin City and how and why it came into existence?
Probably not as well as some of the people in the room.
Okay. Do you know how I'm going to explain it to you?
Please do.
Okay. I work construction.
Okay.
I work for this company, and the owner of it was an 85-year-old man. He used to come and find us out on the job, and I was like, oh God, please, I don't want to be bothered with this man. And he said, hey, where do you live? And I told him, I said, I live in Marin City. And he called me out of my name, wrong name, for 10 years. And I just let him do it. He's 85 years old. He said, do you know how Marin City came into existence? And I said, I gave him a half answer. It came into existence because the black workers that came here from the South, there was statutes on real estate around here where even if you wanted to, you couldn't buy or rent a place somewhere else.
That's right.
And he said himself that he had problems with it. Trust me, I'm finna close.
No, take your time.
He said that he had some work to be done in San Anselmo or Sleepy Hollow on Fawn Road. Sheriff, you know what I'm talking about. That's the area they patrol, unincorporated Marin. He went to the union. He said, I need a couple of men to hew this hill back so I could pave this road. And the gentleman said, the hall's empty, but we have some black guys here. And Mr. Thornton said, he told him, no, I don't want none of them. And the union leader said, listen, if you don't give these people employment, they're going to steal from you. This is what the man told me. And then he said that
Ms. Green, you know, right?
under protest, he took these two black workers and he sent them out to Fawn Road for supposedly a 2-3 day job. They hewed this hill back, and they was back in the yard by 2:30 that afternoon. And Mr. Thornton said, hey, wait a minute, you guys quitting early? And he went out there that he didn't believe him. He went to check on it. And this hill was hewn back so good and so fast, he was like, whoa, whoa, wait. And from that moment on, he hired black workers. But he was part of the establishment that didn't even want black people in Marin County. Fast forward. My grandmother received a Martin Luther King award at some hotel, something to do with something she did after she was dead. Dr. Collins, a black dentist that lived in Mill Valley, said he gave his speech and he went through it and he said, hey, and he read the deed to his house. And it stated, no person of color shall reside in this residence unless they're working or something of servitude. And this was the statute in Marin County. And Marin City exists because people couldn't live anywhere else, even if they wanted to. Now you want to take that away.
That's right.
That's what you're doing. You're not telling these people the truth.
That's right.
You want to build high-density housing and say it's low income and say you came into compliance with it. You don't have the community's best interests at hand. Tell the truth.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, now you're gonna speak, you're gonna pimp past that and not respond, huh?
You know,
you don't have an answer. You don't have an answer.
You're right, I do not have an answer.
And you the head man.
I do not have an answer because
you hired to do a job and you doing it.
I do not have an answer because we don't have a plan. But I appreciate the history.
No, you don't appreciate it. You wish I would shut up. That's what you wish I would.
No?
You know, I just want to say that Louis is telling the truth. He does not have the answer. The answer is at the Board of Supervisors. That's where the answer is. They need to be made to come up and answer our questions. Not Louis Jordan, because just like from Chris Gooey to Barbara to Dan the Man Ackerman, now it's here. They'll get rid of him when he ain't gonna do his job and try to bring in somebody else. We need to let them know, hey, it's over. It's over. That's right. 5 minutes. It's over.
Discuss parking. So again, I want to affirm what Royce just said. Louis doesn't have the answer. He doesn't have the answer because part of the process is that you all collectively are supposed to help sort out what that's supposed to really look like. I understand and appreciate everything that you said, sir. And again, when I say that we need you at the work meeting, I'm serious.
I don't think you appreciate what I got to say. By your response, I don't think you appreciate it.
So again, we can talk later about...
About what?
History.
I ain't talking about history, I'm talking about now.
We can talk about the present.
Well, I gave you the history.
We can talk about both.
And you guys represent that and don't know the history.
So what I want to do is respect the entire agenda, my commitment to you initially in terms of trying to get out of here or move on to parking in 30 minutes. We can have another conversation at the next meeting. We can do it outside, we can do it in the corner, but I want to respect everybody else and move this thing forward so you can get those questions answered and we can move forward. Yes, sir. Yes, that's where we're going. All right, so closing out the discussion of the myth and the rumor, all these things that have been scribed up here on the wall are going to be sent out to everyone. These are the actual facts. Anyone that says anything other than that, these are HUD laws that cannot be broken. These are your guiding principles that will not be broken. So as we move through this process, again, all I can do is ask y'all to show up and say your piece. I have no interest in changing your mind about whatever your position is, but we want to hear what your position is. Now, as we segue, there's another hot topic around parking that you all seem to be really, really invested in. I'm going to let Louis speak to that.
All right, so let me do this. Let me start by giving a history of how we got to where we are with parking. And once I give the history, then I'll answer questions about going forward. Is that all right? So probably about 2.5, 3 years ago, the Housing Authority started an effort to respond to resident concerns. These are people who live in Golden Gate Village. Everything from, and I guess at one time or another, and some of you who've been around longer can help me with this, we had some remnant of a policy, wasn't followed very well, it just wasn't complete, right? So we started getting, and this kind of predates me, we started getting inquiries from people who live in Golden Gate Village. The inquiry spoke to other people parking in their perceived space, having issues with people parking, coming outside, asking, can you move your car, getting these ugly looks, sometimes getting some very, very disrespectful responses from those individuals. Drug usage, loud music, just improper behavior. Okay, so that's where it started. So improper behavior, or improper behavior I should say. And so over time, we said, let's look at how we can develop something to address that issue. Safety, cleanliness, comfort, that's something that we owe families who live in public housing. And that's something that we look to provide. So that being said, over a 2.5-year period, we had a number of meetings and conversations with resident leadership, with residents. We sat up in the parking lots and we talked about what this is going to look like, We got some recommendations on, well, Lewis, that sounds okay, but we'd rather do something else. We took all of those recommendations into consideration. We had a public hearing. Okay, just let me finish. I'm not giving you all the time in the world when I'm done. So in this process, we came up with a new parking policy. The parking policy went into effect June 1st. It's been into effect now with 15, 16 days. The intent of the policy was to erase all those things I just said. Residents are asking for things, we responded. Based on the feedback that I've got, so case in point, if you drive through, the parking lots are cleaner. Folk, you know, I mean, and the people who live there are saying, I've gotten calls, Mr. Jordan, Lewis, this is what we asked for, thank you. Now, in doing that, what's become very apparent, is that there's been some additional issues caused to folks who live there. And just like with any process when you start it, it isn't perfect. So I'm here to say we got mission accomplished. Folks don't have to fight over parking spaces anymore. Kids are safe. Kids are safe. What's that? Kids are safe. You know, the things that were. Just hold on. I'm simply saying, guys. I'm simply saying two things. This is based on what residents asked us to do, and we did it. And then the second thing, I am so open to making some adjustments if it's causing more problems than we thought it would. So that's where I want to end, and I'll answer any questions. Yes, sir.
The problem is I was getting somebody the other day, the red curve on the right side of the roadway going up down to Great Avenue. It's a death trap. And somebody's going to get killed. Originally, the parking was on the opposite side of the street. Not, you wouldn't have to walk across the double yellow line to you could get to your vehicle. And all the cars, if the kids coming in and out of there, I'm telling you, somebody is going to get killed up there. And to me, you're not looking out for nobody's safety.
So to Mr. Cherry's point, the striping on the street is not under the housing authority's jurisdiction. Okay, so let me.
Yeah, but listen.
And I'm only
saying. The law that says that you have to, when you build places, you have to have adequate parking. Yeah. They allowed them in 1960 to use that side of the road for parking for those residents in there where Royce lived in the middle of it. Not on the other side of the street. I mean, it's a clear death trap. And if they want to cross the street legally, they have to walk all the way down the hill, go all the way back up again to go this way. And if they want to go the other way, they have to walk all the way down past the church, which is ridiculous. There's no crosswalk.
Okay, also, I've been a resident here all my life. I was born and raised in Marin City. And my concern is being able to come and do the family.
Sure.
Okay? I need to see that. This is my secret. I'd like to say what do I do when I come in and figure out this? What do I do? Come on. That's not right. And I can't, I'm the same people. I can't walk the street all the way into
I'm going to tell you what to do. This is what he said at the meeting down there in the 200 lot. Somebody asked you the same exact question she asked you, and you quoted, this is what you said. Go park down in the shopping center parking lot. That's what you said. Did you, oh, wait a minute. Did you say that? Yes, you did. I heard it with my own ears. And several other people did too.
So what was said, I'll tell you exactly what I said.
You said?
I said that, and I stand by it. Our responsibility for parking is for the people who live in public housing.
Okay, so what you saying is you don't care about everybody else here. Because my daughter and my mother-in-law and my mother came to visit me at 6 Fleming's Court, and there ain't no place for them to park. There's people who park in their cars in guest parking, unregistered, for weeks. Okay, but I told you this before it happened, and you just kind of shrugged it off like it wasn't a problem. You didn't think about the whole community. You just said it. You just concerned with what's going on in public housing.
And that's our obligation.
That's what you said.
So with what I'm hearing now, it sounds like we need to do something different. And we're open to it. We're open to it.
What you gonna do?
Well, we need to talk about what needs to be done.
What's
So,
there to talk about?
I
There's a parking problem.
Okay,
You don't want to hear it because it's pouring salt in your wound. Don't smile. Answer the question. Answer the question. You don't have an answer.
So ma'am, we're looking at parking. We're looking at disabled parking. But again, I can't be more clear. The parking that we have available on site, the first priority goes to those who live on site. And let me say this, that's like anywhere else you go. Anywhere else you go.
I come here to take care and see and try to aid people who are disabled and handicapped. I can't walk from the street all the way over to their house.
So there's even a provision in our policy that says if you're visiting someone who is disabled or handicapped, that person in the household can come and talk to us and talk about you coming over and helping them out, and we'll see how we can do the work out. Okay, very good. Okay, all right, perfect.
Their car, they filed the gas, and then it all boiled down to it's registered in their name, everything. And then you want to say about insurance. I don't know if their father has insurance on it or not, but it is their car, and we began to be the den. Everything else, I mean, what's really going on? They had right to get a sticker.
Okay, very good. All right. Over here, yes, ma'am. I'll go. Very good.
I just want to know that the right for parking for every single resident. And there is people that is not allowed to have a parking spot. You living with a contract, they're not allowed for it. My daughter is one of them.
Okay.
She owns a car. She doesn't drive. She has the right to have a parking spot. She got kids. She's against it. She is not driving. She got drivers and then she has the car. But she don't have a car. She has a driver. How she can manage herself. So I think the right for a parking spot is for everybody that is living there.
Okay.
And I think disabled parkings are to be open. They're not to be with numbers. Because not a lot of people comes. I got a brother that can hardly walk, and he is disabled. So I think every single resident should have the right to have a parking spot. That's it.
Thank you. I'm going to ask, before we go to the next question, Kim has worked in helping us implement the parking strategy. And I'm going to have her talk to some of the realities of parking and some of the concerns that we're getting. And then I promise you, I'll talk to you next. Okay.
I just want to know, why do I have a parking meeting on a Tuesday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and people don't have to work? That's all I'm asking.
Because they don't want you to show up. Because they don't want you to show up.
Kim, I have a question about the design of the parking sticker. The design of the parking sticker. Why you would have to say Marin Housing Authority?
Design.
It could have said Golden Gate Village. It could have had the initials. It could have had anything on there. So Marin Housing Authority. That means we're low income. We got kids. We got. I mean, we targeted.
You live in Marin City. You're black.
That's very good. That's very good. And that's something we can look at. So something that doesn't identify where you live. That's something we can look at. That's right. I mean, that's good feedback. That's something.
You got a little kid, give me all you
Excuse me, with regards to parking, first of all, I'm glad that I have a place to park. I'm glad of that because for a long time I used to have to jockey for a place to park.
Okay.
But now what I think could alleviate some of this, two things. One, in the big parking lot across the street, there are a lot of spaces that's designated for staff. Okay, that could be utilized. That you know, it could be used if you activated that those staff parking places could be used at hours that staff don't be there. That's one thing that would help. Secondly, there's a red line running all the way down the sides of the street.
Thank you.
That if they would just take that red line up,
it would be nice.
That's right. Park there.
Yes.
It would give some additional parking space.
So excuse me, just real quick, I want to check in. I want to first inform you, make sure that even though the process is starting to get a little loose, that we're capturing the concerns you're bringing up. So in terms of removing the red line and reducing, shifting the staff parking, we're catching that?
Yeah.
In terms of making sure we change the parking sticker to not identify you as a Marin Housing Authority resident, we're catching that. But part of what's happening is that people are jumping in and overtaking the space. And so we're trying to capture what you're saying, but if you guys are just going to shout out different things, the meeting will then walk away and we won't have progress. So we were trying to make sure we got everyone, so we were moving this way. There are hands, LaDasha's hand's been up for about 20 minutes. We're doing our best to honor everyone in the room. The only way we can do that is if everyone participates with us. So I would like to hear from Kim, as Mr. Jordan requested. Now I'd like to continue to move this way, and if you allow us to do that, we will work our way all the way around the room. And when you're not speaking, I really ask you to listen to what the other person is saying. So if it's okay with you, I'm going to pass the mic to Kim.
So I don't want to talk too much just up front because I want to hear everyone's concerns, feedback, everything to that end. What I can tell you starting off is, we have some numbers for you. I can tell you about how many spots we have and how many are assigned and in which slots they're tight, which slots we have tons of space, just from that basic thing so we're all on the same page. So right now we have about 56% of our spaces assigned. And the places where there's not very many spaces left are the 30 lot located on Cole Drive, and then in the 300 lot. There's only a few spaces left in all of those. We have a lot of spaces in the 100, 200, and then in all of our high-rise buildings. So I think what that speaks to is that the way that our development is laid out in Golden Gate Village is the amount of units don't necessarily match the amount of parking spots in the lot that's closest. So some of the things that we've been considering based on the feedback is basically loosening the restrictions on getting a parking permit so that we're able to assign more people permits. We're considering the possibility of assigning second permits based on feedback because there's a lot of households that have more than one car. So potentially moving some of those secondary cars into the lot could probably address some of the issues with there not being any parking on Cole and Drake. There's a lot of different ways that we can approach this, but what we want to do, and what, like Louis said, what we started off to do, is to improve the quality of life for our residents in our parking lots, because if you walked, I hate to say it, but if you walked through the 100 lot a month ago, it was a different scene than it is today. And that's not for me to say because I don't have to live in the 100 lot. But I also don't like getting a phone call from someone saying they don't want their kids to go outside because of what's going on in the 100.
Exactly.
That's not fair.
Can't go to the playground.
So that's where we're coming from. And now I'd be more than happy to go around the room and respond to individual questions or however you guys want to do it.
What's going on in the 100 lot that you're talking about?
So what I would ask you, and I think
no, I asked you a question. Don't. I said you opened it up. You said something was going on. What's going on?
So I don't live in the 100 lot, but what residents.
No, I asked you what's going on. No, it's not a trick question.
I'm here for you.
What you saying that people saying something going on? What's going on?
So what people called and told us as the housing authority is that there was people living in their vehicles. Urinating out of their vehicles. You walk through the 100 lot before June 1st, and it smelled like urine. There was garbage on the ground. People were barbecuing out there and acting like it was their front yard. And all residents were calling and complaining about that.
Down there in the 100 lot, what that got to do with parking?
Hold on, sir.
That's a law enforcement issue,
sir. We agreed that we're going to respect everybody in the building and work our way around with folks that have their hands up, so we can please just do that. Folks can have their question answered and asked, and we can continue to move this thing forward.
Answering any questions.
Okay,
I have to speak into the mic.
Use your outside voice.
I think as far as the smell like urine down there, I think it's because we do need bathrooms down there. That is a park, and when I have a 2-year-old son who's spider trained, so when I bring him down to the park, what I'm supposed to do when he has to use the restroom?
I take him to the bush.
There it is. I mean,
that's a separate issue from the parking issue, but that's an important issue we're trying to get to the park, right? Yes, ma'am.
I just have a something I want to say. When I come here and when I sit and think, I think about our children and their future. I don't know if you're on the same page, but when I, even with the 100 lot, when I walk through there, or I had something that was said to my little sister that walked through there, just from some people that wasn't even residents. I mean, they I don't know if they were residents, to be honest. But
you mean the old men to be sitting down there?
Yeah, okay. And then at the same time, where I stay at, I am new to the community. Well, I'm not new to the community, but I just moved there. And the violence that I see in the community or in the parking lots and all these cars are crowded in, I think about if my child was to be caught up in something, how would they know who was involved? Because if there are people from the outside that's coming in and causing all this violence in our communities, if we don't have their license plates or know who these cars belong to, and I wish we could get a meeting like this together when someone gets killed in our community, but that's a different story. But I think about the kids and how can we make them safe and stay in a safe environment.
I agree with my sister. The 100 lot has been to the point where I don't even want to walk through it. I live in a 100 lot. There's people that didn't live in our community and people in our community that are smoking, that are drinking. When you walk past, they are disrespectful. And now that the parking is restricted, thank God, it's a whole lot better. Even for my kids, my daughter who is about to be 9 years old, she's walking and you see a grown man looking at my daughter, and I'm just like, excuse me, are you serious? So I think that we have to start thinking about our children, because we are adults, we have lived our lives. It's our kids, it's the future. Our children are our future, and we should be more concerned about them and what we allow to be presented before them. Thank you.
So when I look back and get like that's
Yeah, I have more of just concerns, maybe not so much as some questions, but more so dealing with, I don't know, it is, I do agree that the lots, I guess, overall seem like it has been kind of cleaned up, but it also brings about a lot of other issues. I believe someone was mentioning before about it is very dangerous because now people are having to jaywalk across the streets back and forth to their car. So basically you just move the traffic or the crowd that was in the parking lot on the street and also into that church parking lot, which they start complaining about that. I don't know, I just think maybe some kind of things to maybe adjust it, because I also feel that it kind of singles people out, all the people that's parked on the street. It makes it seem like, okay, well, something wasn't right where they couldn't get a permit possibly, or just some other things, maybe putting a crosswalk at that coal hill where people could cross safely instead of just having to jaywalk, because my building is kind of like at an angle, it's a hill, so it's still, jaywalking back and forth across the street. The tickets are ridiculously high. Maybe they could have adjusted that. They're not, but I guess that's getting the point across for people not to park there. But I was thinking maybe some other options even. If you're a resident, and you have registration and or you're a resident, possibly I would have rather pay like a monthly fee, $25, $35 or something, There's all kind of other ideas maybe that could have been brought about, perhaps, The overall goal I feel was accomplished, but I think maybe some adjustments need to be made. And also it's a lot of handicapped, disabled people
It's really a struggle, they said, for their in-home care attendants to park there. You know, it's just overall, how is it affecting, you know, the residents here as opposed to, you know, accomplishing the overall goals. So hopefully we can come together with some ideas, you know, as a residents and community to see how we can make it adjustable, that it'll work for not only, you know, the residents with the handicap, as well as maybe designating aside a couple of visitors parking, because there is a lot of space still in the lots. And I also don't think that they should have let people choose their parking, because some of the parkings were kind of lined up to the buildings, but I don't know.
So I want to respond to one aspect of that, which is MHA did go to Department of Public Works and make several requests of them. And this was last year. One of them was to open up some space on Drake, which has happened during certain hours. So that's step one. Something else that we requested in the Department of Public Works is to install a crosswalk from the corner where the bus stop is at the corner of Cole and Drake, since so many of our kids cross the street to go to school and vice versa. Kids coming from other areas in Marin City cross the street to use the bus. So, you know, the one thing I can think of that would make that request of DPW a lot more convincing is if I could get a lot of resident support to take back to them and say, you know, this isn't just MHA that wants this, this is our residents that want and need this. So I'm really open, and, you know, I hope that people come forward. Maybe we can put together some sort of letter for residents to sign, and there's probably some other good options that could make that concern more heard by Department of Public Works.
Okay, so I see the hands. I want to let you know that I'm working my way around the room, so you don't have to hold your hand up the whole time. And when I get closer, I will definitely call on you. We are working our way around the room. Yes, sir.
Okay, one of the questions that I have is, what was the purpose of asking for the registration insurance in order to get parking?
So the purpose of that was to make sure that our residents were registering their cars, and now we're re-looking at that, and that's one of the things we're considering is loosening up some of those restrictions. Yeah. Because if you, so I hear your perspective, but look at it from our perspective too. What we were hearing was, my neighbor has 3 people parked in the parking lot that are visiting her all day long, and I can't park in my spot. So we were coming from a place of reacting to that. Now that we're in a different place and we see how the impacts are impacting our community's visitors, and, you know, we're willing to relook at those requirements and loosen it. There, you know, we have to have some sort of agreement, because if, you know, your neighbor comes and registers his cousin's car for 1 week, that also could create an administrative burden that we're not equipped to take care of. So finding a middle ground that's going to be more convenient for our residents while still preserving the cleaner and safer and calmer parking lots that we have is what we're aiming for.
Second question. Time frame of that. The space that y'all gave us, what was the purpose of that?
We did what we could.
Explain a little more.
So
the time frame, okay, you already see that it's a major problem with parking, right? Now, the church across the street don't want you to park there. So they say you got the elders, you have individuals that stay right there in that little space, but then y'all got it from 10 to 6, you can't park there. When individuals get off work, 5,
Sounds like martial law.
come home, exactly. Come home, and all right there is all booked up. Right down here is booked up. You got people coming all the way down by the Holland Boys. That is my first missionary church. So why wouldn't y'all think about that and say, okay, well, everybody's talking about the problem. We understand that people come home from work late. Why don't y'all think about changing that process too?
So,
I mean, it's more quicker than what y'all moving at.
yeah, no, I hear what you're saying, and just to be clear, the restriping, that was a collaborative effort because we don't own that street. So we had to go to the service providers, the community, the residents. There was a public comment period on it. It was published in the paper. So I get that none of that ended up reflecting the actual needs of what our residents and visitors are saying. That being said, I'd also offer that the times I've been here, it appears that some of the issue that was in the 100 lot is now in that area. So what we intended and hoped would be visitor parking isn't necessarily visitor parking for our residents. And so it missed the mark in a way. On the other hand, we can't control what everyone does. So if people are choosing to park there.
So I'm working my way, I'm working this way to Ms. Ladasha, but you brought up 2 important points. You brought up 2 important points. Do you have any suggested changes for housing authority staff as they work to reconfigure this? So loosening up the registration process.
I think that's like you prying into people's personal lifestyle of asking about. They're not the law, so I mean it's like getting pulled up.
So what's your suggestion? What's your suggestion? That they don't ask for.
I mean,
what's your suggestion?
If you're a part of public housing, you should be able to get a public housing parking, right? Without having to go through the process of showing you my insurance, showing you my registration. Some people are elders that has cars that's not in their name because they don't drive no more, but it's their car. That's how they get around. So y'all get in an opportunity of having their parking space because as stated before, each 300 or so residents have their own parking space. That can't be true.
Gotcha.
Alright,
So Dasha.
I have two things. One, resident council meets every second and fourth Tuesday, and we just had this conversation, and Kim did come, and we voiced our concerns, and a lot of the concerns was around the disabled parking and parking slots, and in the tall buildings, there's a lot of extra parking, and people aren't able to park there, which makes a whole bunch of parking on the street. So Kim did take our comments, and she's gonna work on it. But I think they need details of exactly what's going on so they'll know exactly how to fix it. And then, two, I wanted to say, since all the cars are on the street and they're out, on each side, when cars are coming down the street and up the street, it's really tight right there and they're crossing over the line. It's either going to be some car accidents and then the little kids running across just freeing all those cars, you can't see them. So I don't know if we need a speed bump or something like that, but it's causing like other problems.
On Drake as
Gotta
well.
stop. You gotta stop. You can't see that corner.
Yeah, it's bad. You have to go slow. But if they're speeding, they'll have to drive.
So well taken. So we're hearing speed bumps are a potential solution. No. So we are now at 7. Just a quick time check. We are at 7:35. So I'm going to honor what I said, which is we're going to go around the room and take questions. I'm going to end with the last question with Ms. Mary Davis. And so we just heard from LaDasha. Is there anyone? Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry, Ava. I'm sorry.
I can understand why you guys doing the lot, because it was a point that you couldn't get no parking because all kind of people was parking.
Right.
You had people complaining because they couldn't find a park. And it was really crazy. People be parking behind each other and all that in the street. My parking lot is empty. Empty. I mean, the 200 look totally different. That's because we ain't got cars parking backed in, music playing all loud. You can get up 5 o'clock in the morning and you still sleeping. They got music out there bumping. This is what I'm talking about. You shut up. And all that don't make any sense. And as far as the 100 lot, kids can't even walk down there. Look, these are teenagers that these old geezers they seen grow up. And they staring at these kids' ass, titties, and we talking about children. We talking about 15-year-olds, them old nasty geezers. They looking at them, they making comments. And some of them lucky they ain't got shot. They ain't got shot. I mean, these are kids that they didn't see grow up. And now you sitting up here staring at their ass, making comments. That don't make no sense.
So they're not going to be able to stare at their ass when they're walking down the sidewalk?
So I think
10 feet away?
That don't have nothing. When they in that parking lot, they're making fucked up comments to people.
So one thing I am hearing. One thing that I am hearing is that there were issues that this change has improved.
Yes.
This went into effect June 1. That was less than 3 weeks ago. Not really. So it hasn't been in effect very long. Is that true? A few days. So what I'm hearing is, one, there were issues and challenges. Housing Authority worked with residents to come up with a plan. That plan has improved some of the challenges that were addressed, that you were looking to address. And like almost every plan, it brought unintended consequences. And what I'm hearing is that Housing Authority is just as ready to hear from you to address those unintended consequences.
So that's it in a nutshell.
So I appreciate your concern. I appreciate you sharing where the pluses are. And so please, we're going to keep moving. Try to stay solution oriented. Give the recommendations that you think will make the difference. And this will not be the last meeting on this issue. Ms. Ashby.
I live in an apartment, but I don't have a car.
Okay.
And I asked him, could I have, because I'm disabled, could I have one of those disabled signs in my stall so people who are visiting me can come in, or somebody that's going to take me somewhere can park there. My son comes there to, you know, just to be with me during the day. If I need anything, he's going to get it. I need to be able to have people park there. I need a parking, you know, one of those disabled parking signs. Kim told me that couldn't happen. But that said, I want to say, like Mr. Jordan might know, in Chicago, there's a bar on almost every block. That's where the men congregate. We don't have anything for these men to congregate in. We could have a recreation room for them with a pool table and a big screen TV so they can watch the game or whatever. There needs to be something for these men. And if we can't make it possible, this mall that was built supposedly for us could do it.
The what, Ms. Ashley?
I'm sorry?
The last part, the what was built?
The mall was supposedly built for the residents to have businesses. Not one resident has a business here. There could be like a liquor, a bar. So the men will have somewhere to go. They won't be on the street.
They drink anyway. They don't need to I'm gonna ask you to, I'm gonna come right back to you. I want to get the elder sis before you go, because she's on the way out.
Listen, I was just wondering, you know, about my handicap. Can I use that anywhere in the parking lot? Because I have space not. I do some California law.
So as of right now, the way our policy is written is that we are assigning handicap stalls, but that's something that we're willing. So it's something that we're re-looking at right now in conjunction with
your handicap on private property or anywhere where there's reserved parking, such as in the housing authority lots or at the Civic Center, places like that, your handicap placard does not allow you to park in those reserved stalls. It allows your handicap placard allows you to park in timed parking. It allows you to park in handicapped spaces. It allows you to park on the street in areas like Canfield or San Francisco that requires permits on the street. You don't need a permit there. That's what that allows you to do. It doesn't allow you to park in reserved parking spaces.
Okay. But I can't park in handicapped spots. So let me ask you.
I think I understand the difference between public property and private property.
Housing authority is
yeah, but where you have spaces that actually
I didn't know about you come here and park. I didn't know that. Because I am handicapped.
You can't park in the reserved parking spaces.
She's asking, can she park in a handicap stall?
No. As of right now, no.
So I can't come here.
But if we're going to catch your, what I hear as a suggestion is those who have disabled placards should have access to any handicap spots.
Exactly.
That we put that as one of the recommendations.
I don't want to get a ticket.
You're saying that you want to make some handicapped parking spaces available on site for non-residents, correct?
Absolutely.
That's perfect.
For the handicapped
stall, if they have a permit to park in that stall, why does it need to specify that it's a handicap stall, especially if it's accessible to them?
Right. So,
it shouldn't even be a handicap stall.
So the way that worked is when we didn't have this permit-only parking program, we're required, because technically you could have said there was visitor parking and public parking in our laws. So federal law, state law, every kind of law requires that you have a certain amount of handicap stalls to go with the place that you're providing other people to park. So when that changed was when we said all of our parking is reserved. So we're not required now to provide those visitor handicap stalls. That doesn't mean that, we're not willing to consider it. That's something that needs to be considered based on the feedback of people saying, I have a handicapped auntie that comes to visit, or I need access to this space.
So when am I going to know? When am I going to know if it's okay for me to come park?
We're working on it. I can give you my phone number too, so I can keep you abreast, but I'll tell you, the hesitation that we have is that there may be some unintended consequences of opening up handicap stalls for anyone, because if a resident, say we stick with one reserved stall or spot for every resident that applies for one. If someone has a second car and a handicap placard, there's nothing that we could do if we made those handicap stalls unassigned and open parking. We couldn't prevent that person from parking their second car there all day, every day. With
Yeah, but what about if somebody else needs to use the stall and you got somebody with 2 cars with handicap plaques that park the whole time?
Exactly, Miss Ava.
That's the unintended consequences that may happen if they open up. So we have the recommendation. There's going to have to be some deliberation to make sure we can try to identify the next unintended consequences.
Can I give my suggestion for a solution, sir?
Yes, I just want to wrap up because she's about to leave. Can we have your card so she can have that before she leaves?
All right, we're going to wrap that up.
Okay, thank you for being patient with us. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Solution. You asked for solution.
Yes.
Very simple. What I believe will be very simple. Every resident who is on the lease, right? Whether you are a driver or not, everyone should have at least a plaque that if their loved ones are visiting them or friends or whoever, they should be able to put that inside of their car, right? Everyone should be able to have a designated parking spot for residents. Now, and it should be something that they can just stick in their window if they're a senior and they don't have a car, but their loved ones want to come see them, they should be able to put that plaque in their car. Very simple. Every resident should have a parking stall. Okay, I think that's a good solution, because what's been happening now is that when people will go and visit someone, they'll park in some, maybe even staff parking. What I saw is that they were ticketed for parking in staff parking, and they were going to visit one of their relatives. So if every resident had at least one of those little hanging things that you put on your rear view mirror that says, yes, you're a resident, yes, you live here. Now I'm very happy and pleased. I live in the 100 parking lot, and I'm very happy that it's been cleared out. It's not the hangout spot. It's quite pleasing, I must say, and I thank you very much for that. Yes. But I really believe that it's been a real problem with a lot of residents, and that would, help the traffic as far as like the parking all around Drake and Cole. Everyone should be able to have a parking spot. Simply, once again, stick something in the window says that you're visiting or whatever. It can just say something like visitor or whatever. So that I think that's fair for the residents, and it would kind of eliminate all of this that's going on.
That's a great suggestion, and that connects to the sticker issue, right? So if you have a placard, you don't have to worry about what it says, because you can take it off when you're not using it. It's not stuck to your car everywhere you go. So we want to link that to the conversation.
And to take that a step further, then when our deputies, Ramon's call them glorified meter maids,
right,
or lots, then they'll ticket everything that doesn't have that plaque.
Right.
So when that makes your job easy.
She was giving me a stick. We got it. So thank you. Yes. So I'm gonna come to you, and then you have a question. So yes, ma'am. Please, can we have everyone's attention?
Yeah, Brooke, I'm gonna ask you already what? Okay. I have people, younger people who live there, like this children right there. They live down in door 5 area on the second floor. They have 2 cars, okay? But what he has to do, his wife can park in her parking place. Then he has to park his car down in the street. Then he got to get up in the morning at 7:30 and drive up to pick up his child, to take his child to school. Because he said there's no tailgate. Okay, then next door is the Wilsons. They're handicapped, they're sick people. The children have to come in to see about them. They have to put up behind their father's truck to park there. But there's no tailgate, they say. Now, I live at 89, and I have my parking space, but the lady who lives next door to me, she does not have a parking space. But see, I have a daughter who doesn't live here. She comes in to see about me. She can put in that space, but she doesn't have any shame showing that she can come and park there. Is there any way that you can give us a visitor parking space? Say, okay, I am a visitor of Gracie's store, blah, 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 blah. And number one, they can only stay there in that parking space for 24 hours.
That's it.
Okay, is there anything we doing about that now? Because like that you said, she can come to my house and park down. She can't go in the street and park on all the cars and take it down there. So now, what did you do? You have to pray and watch, play around and watch stuff and make sure the sheriff department will come in and give her a ticket and pay $100. Because if you park in that parking space now, you will get $100.
Well, you got the tow trucks riding around through the building, taking cars that don't have stickers.
These children got to get up and go to work in the morning. They need to come get their husbands, need to come out, get his car. And if he comes in late, like you said, he may be able to park down in the street, he may not.
So I think one good potential solution is considering issuing 2 permits for households that have 2 vehicles.
And they can park behind each other, right?
In those high-rise slots where it's possible, yes, they should be able to.
She said should be able.
You do have a... There was miscommunication between me and my partner.
So that creates another problem because with the in the high rises, you came through and painted all the sidewalks red. So all the curbs are red.
Yeah.
You know, so if you pull up to your house to try to unload your groceries, because you got to park way across the street, and you're in the red zone, you're liable to get a ticket. And if you park in somebody else's stall and your number is not right, I don't know if they're giving out tickets for that. You know what I'm saying? But
if they give a ticket, but I haven't heard of them doing it.
But if they take, I mean, you took away all the parking anyway when you came along and painted all the curbs red.
That was a while ago, right?
That was a while ago, right. So the tandem parking can't happen because you park one car in, it's clear, but the second car is going to be in the red. So you have to eliminate those red spots, and when you eliminate the red spots, it opens up parking for those that are visiting, for those that are, I mean, you can even make one going down the hill or something like that, handicap.
But I have to say, right now, we're not lacking for spots in the high rises. We have plenty of stalls that
well, that's because a lot of people don't have, a lot of people have issues within the parking stall. Right? And so they all park down the street, which causes another issue. So what she was saying, I agree with that, because that was what I was going to say at first. But it's not just the lacking of things now. It's what's been going on and what's going to go on in the future.
You don't live here and you're not dealing with the issues that's going on because you don't live here. You only come here from 8 to 4:30 and work and go home. Can't see it from your house. Can't see it from your house.
We had a question for you.
Oh, I just want to know if the red zone issue, is that a municipal determination? Like, if you go back to the county and say, this is problematic?
The red zone within our parking lot is a result of doing a property walk with the fire marshal and taking a look at what was required for the fire trucks to have accessibility to different parts of the property. So if we need to try and revisit some of that and open it up, but if we decided to change the policy to have the double stacked parking, then we could certainly look at that in that area. However, the areas that are red up on the top, for example, those are red for health and safety issues, absolutely. So those things would not be open.
Going down the hill being red, but some of the other ones, all of them don't need to be red. Because when the fire trucks and stuff come up there, they block the whole street anyway. You can't get up and down the street, they block you in.
Okay, we have a question in the back. Yes, ma'am.
My thing is, I live in Big Mountain, and the way you guys are set up right now, I don't have no complaints. And I only have one car, so I definitely don't have no complaints. But my complaint is, like if I want to rent a car, and when we want to rent a car, that's part of the also making a ticket, because I was out there one day doing the insurance thing, and we had to lock the doors, because we was all in different parking spaces. Nobody had to stickers in to keep from getting tickets. And then we had to also ask them to give us a few minutes, because a few people just came in from work and they were asleep. But my other problem is, it's not just the parking that's our problem with 59, it's the people that after the weekends come, they come and take those spots back. So they won't leave their cars out there, so parking on the streets ain't no problem on weekends. It's only through the week. So the thing is, that these people are going to be able to come in on the weekends, and the sheriff's not going to come and do a job on the weekends, only try to arrest us.
Cars are in the lot, non-registered cars are in the lot on the weekend?
Yeah, they come on the weekends. So the people are going to have a thing where you can't park, period, in this is straight. But you guys need to make it, because people are getting cross messages that they can do this, they can do that, and everything is okay. And a lot of it is not just us that's there, it's the outside folks that come and want to take over the lot. Because I was cursed out last night when I had somebody to move out my spot because my son was bringing my car back. And I don't have time to my parking space. So me personally, I like it like it was. Wherever you park at, you park.
But then there's somewhere you ain't got nowhere to park because you got other people coming over there parking.
All residents and colleagues.
So how you get parking spot when everybody coming to park?
Seriously, last fact that you're going to try to get 2 parking spaces for the handicap, because my kid's dad, he's really sick, and he has 1 car that's registered that was parked in his parking space, but he happens to be driving his other car. He has to park on the street. He was in his car for about an hour, sick, could not make it up the hill. I mean, he lives 409, top floor, and he's in the car sick for a whole hour. You know, and he always had both cars up the hill. Their both cars are registered, their both cars are insured, their both cars are in his name. So he went and got a doctor's excuse, stated that he's handicapped and he needs to have 2 parking spaces. When he presented that to you, you told him he had 10 days for you to make a decision. 10 days. What if he has another episode tonight, tomorrow? An hour in a car? That's ridiculous. Because he could not make it up to his house. I just think 10 days is unacceptable. Especially when he was told what to do. Get a doctor's excuse and let him know that you're handicapped. You cannot park down there. He did that. 10 days? Come on now.
No, I've been in full communication. I'm not going to speak.
You know who I'm talking about.
I'm not going to speak on your father's particular case with all these people here because it's not the right thing to do. But I told your father I'd be in contact with him as soon as I could.
I mean, it took me 10 days to get mine. And
I
had to go through a doctor to get all this.
Because he couldn't make it up the hill.
So I think part of what we're hearing, and I'm sure Housing Authority is hearing it clearly, Louis described a pretty long process to get to this change, right? To where the parking lot situation is now. And it sounds like we don't have 3 and 4 months to figure this out. So I want to get everybody's feedback, make sure we get that to Housing Authority. I think we can close with them telling us what kind of timeline they can move on. Some of this is county, some of it's Housing Authority, so it may take some time, but I think we'll close with hearing how long will this take, what's the next step. All right?
My name is Terry Thompson, and I've been living in Marin City over 65 years. I want to speak to one thing is about where they're talking about the old geezers that go to hang out down there. We've always had a place where we could hang out. It's a socializing thing, and there's no other place. You keep driving them out, keep going. The next place is the water, I guess. I don't know. But one thing about it is, I get so upset about hearing the reasons for putting these red curves down is because of somebody breaking the law, and the police, the deputy sheriffs are right there and they're not enforcing the law. I think that if you see somebody peeing on the sidewalk or doing anything illegal, you either cite them or either arrest them take them out of this community, and not go run and grab a can of red paint and start painting up the curbs everywhere to inconvenience the whole community and set up death traps. Because I'm telling you, exactly, I've witnessed a lot of times where people crossing over that double yellow line like it's not even there, and the sheriff, they don't, every now and then they might get a hair up their butt and they want to come and write tickets to somebody that's crossing over there. But for years, they sit right there and they watch people walk across there and break the law, and they don't say nothing. And all this about, this is the reason that because of people breaking the law, we have law enforcement. That's what they're for.
Can I respond?
Sure.
So I guess what I would say is I don't feel like the solution to people urinating on the ground, what I don't want to see is all those guys getting arrested and taken away. I don't think that that's a good solution for them or for the community. But what us as the housing authority, what we can do is say, this parking lot is not public property for people to urinate on. And that's what we're trying to say with this. Now, if that's had unintended consequences, that's why we're here to address that. But that being said, the sheriff doesn't have the ability to come and enforce every law of the land on our private property. So expecting the sheriffs to clean up activity that's taking place on private property may not be realistic, honestly.
But it won't take everybody. That's why they make laws, so it'll be a deterrent. If I'm breaking the law and I see Joe Blow over there, same guy as me, same thing, and he gets arrested for something, I'm not going to go over there and start pissing on the sidewalk because I don't want to get arrested. But if they see that, oh man, nothing's going to happen, you just move to a different area and piss over there. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. And it needs to be dealt with on an intelligent way.
And unfortunately, sir, not everybody is as savvy as you. Just because someone gets arrested, some people will still pee on the curb.
So then arrest them again.
And that's part of what
they got repeat offenders everywhere. So there's no big deal. My point is, the sheriff department is not hired here to paint the curbs red. You understand what I'm saying? For law violations.
Yes, sir.
And when I went to the Board of Supervisors meeting, that was clearly said. That's the reason that this first curb over here was red. And they must not be looking at it, because if you come out of the church parking lot, there's cars parked right up to the end on the left side. You can't even see a car coming up that street when you're coming out of there. That's where a red curb should be. The red curb is on the right side, where you have it's not obscuring your vision.
Yes,
and all you got to do is take a look at it, just walk around and have an open mind, and you'll see probably a lot of stuff that I'm saying is right. And that's it. That's it.
Thank you, sir.
And I'm glad I came.
Can you say bathroom?
A week from today, we'll be right back here.
Can you say bathroom?
Can you say go home?
A couple of things. I just want to say that with that handicap being assigned and people who have handicap placards parking in that, and that makes that the resident who was assigned that handicap go to somebody else's which has been assigned, which could cause a problem. So as soon as you could rectify that by freeing up that handicap and assign my neighbor a spot, because there's still empties in our spot. That's one. And then two is Housing Authority staff. They also come into our parking lots and park wherever they want to park. They should be, since it's red in county, should be made to park on the street and not in our lots, taking up our spaces, and then where we're supposed to go, but park on the street. And then the last thing I just want to share as solution, they claim, and I sit on the Marin City Community Services District Board, that July the 11th is going to be the ribbon cutting for the Rocky Grand Park. And so I've been advocating that since this has happened, maybe this could be a place for the men to be able to go. I was told by our president of the board, what, for them to come over there? I said, yes, they're Marin City residents, why not? And it has a bathroom, so that problem will be eliminated. Thank you. That problem of urinating on the street and even defecating in public, because our children had to witness that going to school. So, July the 11th at the Rocky Graham Park, first thing in the morning.
I think at this point we have about 3 or 4 more.
We got people over here with hands.
Okay, I just want to say I'm happy about the parking policy because there were times when I come home late at night and I have 4 kids. So on Wednesdays, we go to Bible study. There's times when I don't come home until like 9 o'clock. And parking, I usually park on the street anyway if parking is available on the 30 lot. But now that I got my sticker, I can park in my stall and I have to worry about circling the block 4 or 5 times at night to get my kids in on the school night. So I'm happy about that. The other thing is the urinating and stuff. In broad daylight, somebody came and peed from 49, visiting whoever they were, peed right on the side of the building where I live. I had to tell him, can you please not do that? Me and my kids don't want to see that. And he was respectful enough to say, okay, but it's like if you have visitors, why can't they use your bathroom? That's right.
Exactly.
That's just common respect for anybody. I don't want to see nobody else.
And enjoy their retirement or their self-employment. Like some guys over there, self-employed, hang out. They work when they want to work. They hang out, they enjoy. And they're not called gang members. And they're not called all these things because they have freedom. But here, when we hang out over there, me too, we hang out, we're saying we're harassing people, we're a gang, we're a problem. That's bull crap. I've been hanging with 100 off and on my entire life, off and on. And like I said, you're new here. You have no idea what goes on 100 lot. You may say you do. You may say you get a call. I doubt you get a call, maybe once every few months. So what? There are no gangs there. We don't bother anybody.
So I guess what I would say, you know, I'm sorry if that's what you heard from me, but what I said is, I received calls that state that. I didn't say anything to characterize the people that are in the 100 block. But what I hear is that there's urine on the ground all the time. So those are the concerns I'm responding to. I'm not making a judgment about anyone that's in that lot, because you're right, I don't live here, and it's not my job to come in and tell this community that I'm not a part of how to live. But it is my job as a housing authority employee to listen to the concern of everyone in this community, and most importantly, our residents. And if my residents, if the residents of this awesome community are saying, I can't walk through the 100 lot because of an old man or because of someone you're
old man.
or whatever.
You'll be old one day. You're gonna be old.
I know. And so that's why we're trying to address it. And that's why I'm saying we're not going to
Supposed call. You don't know.
You heard people in this meeting say that
Then
they invite you.
point out the old man that's doing this and call the police and say he did that.
Yeah. So one thing I do want to honor is
you ain't got to answer for that.
But I do, I'm listening. I'm not from Marin City. I'm not trying to pretend like I am from Marin City. But I'm listening. And I have heard people say they are happy with the changes. I also have heard people say they are not.
Like I said,
and that's what happens in
not
the
to cut you
community.
off, I'm sorry, but like I said, in every community, people, like it's institutionalized racism. In Fordham Deer or Mill Valley, Sausalito, they do it. They hang out, they enjoy themselves, they barbecue. There's a porta potty in Sausalito. Why? To help the people out so they can't go to that.
I'm not disagreeing with you. All I'm saying is, what I'm saying is, the change that was came back was feedback from some residents who actually came today saying, I like the change.
But it's easy to say, I get a call. Some residents, I mean, that.
But you know, the residents are saying, it changed. I'm happy it changed.
Let me say something, David.
I did hear a few people.
Let me say
People here.
Change everyone's life now because of one person.
And the gentleman earlier,
everybody's not going to be the same.
The gentleman earlier was here said, this is our front, we need a place. As we talk about it, again, guys, this is why it's so important to have this kind of conversation. Because as we talk about some kind of strategy to improve housing, you know, maybe there is a big square where men can hang out and where people can play chess and people can play checkers and things of that nature. Maybe those things are possible. We just need to get to a place where we can have that conversation. You know, we came tonight and I'll say, mission was accomplished. We put in a process to, and I'm kind of sad that this has all kind of gone towards just 100 light and men urine, because that's not what this was about saying. No, that's not what we said. That's what people said. That's what people said. So what I'm saying is that we want to address an issue that says that the people who live in housing have places to park first, and then beyond that, we look what's next. Kim can tell you only half of our parking lots are full. So with only half of the parking lots full, and we're looking at giving a second sticker to those who have second cars, it begs the question, who's parking on the street now? So again, half of our parking lot is empty, 56%. So the question of, are we satisfying the needs of the residents? I think we are. Are there some adjustments we can make? I think we will. But the other side of that equation is, what is it that we can do to address the needs of the community? And that's what we came to hear about, and we've gotten a whole lot of good stuff to take back.
Real quick, Mr. Jordan, as far as I understand, Marin Housing Authority is not in the business of, well, you are in the business of providing safe, sanitary, affordable housing for low-income people.
Right.
Not in the business of entertaining seniors and people who just want to hang out in the 100 parking lot. So to have that happen, I live there, have lived in Marin City for 38 years of my life, and this is not, because people are believing that that's the front, that's the hangout, that's where, and it's not okay. I live there. There's been many times where we can't even drive through the parking lot because people have lawn chairs, and you know, and it's just ridiculous. And everybody is not an old geezer. People just want to hang out. That's why it's important, like Mr. Roy said, for the park to be utilized for that. The parks are, you know, it's going to be accessible for everybody. So why not hang out there? So to make it comfortable for people to think it's okay to hang out and just sit around in cars in the 100 parking lot, I'm happy that it's the way it is. Personally. I mean, I just feel like everyone should have a parking space, absolutely. But should people who are non-residents be sitting up in there all day, all night, parked in our parking lot? No. And those who live in the 100 parking lot know exactly what I'm talking about. We can't even get in our own driveway a lot of the times because of all of this that's happening. It's not fair to us as residents who are rent-paying on lease residents. So I'm happy about the change, and we're not in the business of trying to find some place for grown men to congregate. I mean, that's just how I feel about it. So people may feel different ways about it. Let them go to where they live and hang out where they live.
That's what I'm talking about.
Let them do that there. Let them barbecue on their little grass area. But to think it's okay for them to come, and 90% of them don't live in public housing. So go to Rocky Grant Park and utilize the park that was created for this community, not the 100 parking lot. So people can say what they want to say. I live here, I pay rent and plenty of it. So my thing is, people just do what you're supposed to do. I don't have a problem with the new policy. The only problem I have is that everyone, once again, should have their own parking spot. And that would just eliminate all of that. So the old men, the old geezers, or the ones just hanging out there or whatever, you won't be allowed to do that because you can't do that in Mill Valley, in Sausalito, and Tiburon. You can't go in their parking lots and barbecue in their parking lots.
I do.
No, you don't. You're not barbecuing in nobody's parking lot.
Downtown Mill Valley, I do. I go there
you sit in the parking lot and you go in people's parking lots and barbecue?
Ain't got no barbecue pits down at the park.
Yes, ma'am.
But that's not the food park deal. The point is that we utilize Rocky Grant Park is what I'm saying. But they're not at the park doing that. They're in the parking lot. There's a difference. I've seen them in the parking lot, not in the center of the parking lot, but when we can't even get in the.
Look, they trash it. They throw all kinds of bottles.
This is part of the challenge. This is a diverse community. People are going to have different perspectives. I understand. I'm headed that way. But part of what I'm trying to do is to not have the crosstalk happen and debating where I can't get to her.
Okay.
She left and came back, and I appreciate you coming back, and I want to get to you. But let's be clear, this is not a homogeneous community. Everybody's not going to agree.
No.
That's part of why it's going to take a little time. and we're not here to try to convince each other of our perspective. We want to make sure those who can make the changes hear our voice, and we will monitor them to make sure they make the changes. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. I have been here since the 50s, okay? And I am here, I am disabled, and after I leave here, like, I want to see my aunt disabled. I want to know if when I leave here and park here, will I get a ticket? And also, Miss Ashby, Miss Stover, and Miss Silmaluca, I've been knowing them since I was growing up, something like that. It's like moving people in and out of their apartments that they've been in for several years. It's not right. It's not right. Yes, what are they going to do? Okay. And also, it's like everyone that has an apartment here has always been assigned to an apartment. That's always been assigned to an apartment. That's good. I can't walk that far. Mom can't walk that far. So that means when I leave here, I can go see her. Will I get it here?
Does she have, so if you go and you park in our parking lot and you don't have a placard, you could. And so that's something that we said we were willing to look at in order to try and accommodate the disabled visitors to our property. And it's something we need to take seriously, but we also need to do it with keeping the goals in mind. And if we can do it, if we can provide that parking and not have the complaints returned, then I think we need to consider it, absolutely.
So in other words, she'll get a ticket.
Just say
that. You go get a ticket and walk to the visitor house for 30 seconds, and the police come and go get a ticket. $100 ticket at that.
So we have our last question.
Last two.
Last two?
Yep. So Mary Davis has a question and Scott has a comment.
Actually, I have a comment. I need a question. 7 years ago when I first moved here, we all got parking places and you just gave your car, what make it was, and a license plate. And you were the person with the license. But there wasn't any registration and or insurance, which I know for a lot of people is a smart thing. The other thing I'm going to think about, this feels to me like a smoke screen. Because if you guys are getting this upset about parking places, I want you to think what it would feel like if they said, okay, now we're taking your apartments. So I think you guys really need to think about it and come to the meetings.
Really?
Come to the, department. I don't know, I was in the newspaper, I don't know if you saw my picture the other day, but I went for the first time with Royce and some other people to speak to the supervisor's meeting. And it was really important and it's really valuable. And if you guys care about your community, you need to go to all of these meetings.
Yeah. Right. Well, what if someone doesn't work? I mean, I can't just tell them I can't come to work and I gotta attend the meeting.
Absolutely, come forward.
Well, I have a question.
All right, so if it's possible.
Wait, Scott had a comment. He's going to tell us how to fight the parking ticket.
I can do that. So just to clarify a couple things. One is the Sheriff's Department does not write laws, so we don't make decisions as to what's read and what's not, et cetera. The Board of Supervisors, DPW and the Board of Supervisors, take care of that process. We're in charge with enforcing it, not making laws. We don't do both. I think from what I've heard, a lot of the complaints stem around the extra cars on the street now because of this. And Kim's explained a couple of times that they're looking at that because they realized, when they drafted the policy, they had no idea how many people wouldn't be able to get permits, to park in their spaces. So this process has evolved. There's been, we've had numerous conversations before and since June 1st when this was implemented. And there's been a lot of changes that have been made. Some more permits have been issued. And I think there's probably, is it fair to say that there's more in the works? So if there's more permits issued, there'll be more cars taken off the street. That will alleviate a lot of the problems that we're facing now, frustrations that people are facing. The crosswalk at Upper Cole and Grace, that was something, I think that goes back a year, that was requested. We supported that.
Two separate times or one time?
I don't know the status of that, but I can find out probably tomorrow so I can have an answer for next month's meeting. But crosswalks give people a false sense of security. And that's something that everybody needs to keep in mind. You know, whether it's a crosswalk or it's not, across the street, you need to look. You know, there's no reason for somebody to almost get hit by a car when you're walking across the street. They look. You know, and unfortunately people don't. They don't look as often if there's a crosswalk. So that's one thing that DPW is really mindful of when they decide to put in a crosswalk.
So those that ride motorized, maybe on the sidewalk or because I almost hit somebody because of the parking also. Him coming down and I'm going up that hill. That's somebody would talk to him and tell him not to do that. Like you can't do that because I can be sure anything happens.
You can let me know who specifically that is.
I don't know his name.
And then, so there was a question about contesting parking tickets. Well, first of all, somebody mentioned a long time ago in the fines. The fines are set countywide. That's not something for, you know, they're not different per violation in any particular community. Countywide, in the cities and in the unincorporated areas, it's the same fines for the specific violation. In terms of contesting citations, the information is on the back of the citation that tells you how to do that. You can write a letter, you know, and send it into the parking authority, and they process it, and then ship it to the agency, in this case, the Sheriff's Department, and we review that. And I think, if my memory serves me correctly, they want you to pay the bail up front. But if you write on there that you're low income, they'll process it. I believe they process it without the fine being posted up front.
I meant to say motorized.
Yeah, that's, I assume.
Right now.
Thank you.
So we.
Say the law, we're talking about the law, right? Okay.
Which curves? Because on the housing authority side, they've been read for
No.
Opposite the 200
No.
Opposite the 200
on the other side?
No. On the housing side, it was just being recently painted red. It wasn't,
On the housing authority side of Drake?
yeah.
That's being read.
No.
What are you talking about going up into the
Yeah, I'm talking about just going, the structure period from
Oh, you mean in
the
the
housing
parking?
authority all the way down to the tennis court.
From Cold Drive to Donahue.
There was nothing that's been painted red recently on the roadway.
I'm saying on the curb, right there where the Green Village sign is, the peak wall, right there, all the way up to the housing authority, all the way down to the tennis court. That's like within the last, what?
1982, 83?
Yeah, it's been a while.
Hate was here in,
Right, it
No, it wasn't.
That's the problem.
It was hate was here.
Not when they did this.
No, not when they did
That's
that.
what I'm saying. Made the people walk across the street.
So let's do
I ain't talking about
this. Let's do this for the sake of time. I'm confident that Mr. Lloyd will talk to you after the meeting. You guys can get clear on where this street is and you can address your questions. But I do want to give Mr. Lloyd an opportunity to speak to the residents to say what are the next steps, when can we expect to hear some movement on the issues that were brought up, and then Mr. Jones will close us out.
So I want to say thank you all for coming out, particularly those who hung around until the very end. Just like with any process, there's some opportunity to look at it, and we're committed to do that. We're gonna take all of the feedback and look to see what we can adjust. I'll say, like I said in the beginning, what we change can't impact what we fix. Is that fair enough? So the concerns that residents had, you know, about places to park, loud music, on and on and on, for whatever reasons, it seems like that's been eliminated through this process. But at the same time, we're cognizant of the fact that it's adding some added imposition, and we're going to look at that. I would say that maybe have another meeting in 30 days to just talk about what we can potentially do. Some of the individual things are going to be fixed right away. And we hope that people will come back to another large meeting and talk about, I mean, I'll tell you, this is a wonderful showing because people came out and said, this is how we feel. And so you need to know that we have and will continue to have our residents' best interest in heart, and at the same time understand the impact that our decisions can have on the community at home.
Okay, I have a question. It don't have nothing to do with the parking. It has to do with the maintenance. I'm wondering why they only have 5 maintenance men for all the complex. One maintenance is to do 100 complexes. I'm wondering why you guys can't hire somebody more maintenance men, because half the time it takes you days to get it done. That's because they got so much to do.
So I can answer that. The short answer is that we don't have the money. And then the second answer, and I was going to mention this earlier, last week the Housing Authority received a national recognition from us, calling us a high performer. And so what a high performer is, it's an agency that pays very close attention to the physical aspects of its building, the financial aspects of its buildings, of its agency, how it manages its properties, and its capital needs. So this is the first time we've gotten such a designation in almost 9 years. So what we're doing, and you may say, well, we need to see more people, but that designation came because we're answering work orders a lot faster than we used to. We're getting a lot better at our work, but if there are issues with things not being done timely, let us know.
Cut some of the budgets, cut some of these people's checks that's getting all this money, then we can hire somebody else.
So next Monday when we have our working group meeting, if you come a little earlier, we'll sit down and we'll walk through the entire budget and let you know how much money we spend and on what we spend it on. Okay, let's
for the sake of time.
Yeah, and I'll stay around.
Just for the sake of time, we are now at 8:25. We attempted to end about an hour ago. We really appreciate those who have stayed, and we want to honor you and respect your time. So I'm going to pass it to Mr. Jones, and we will definitely be around after the meeting to take.
So I want to remind folks that this is not the end of the conversation. This is the beginning of the conversation. So, historical preservation meeting next Monday. Please be here. Please be here. So I don't care if we're talking about historical preservation, revitalization, rebuild. You can see that housing issues and related housing issues is an emotional discussion.
Yes.
So we understand that. We know what we signed up for. But it is the participation that's what's really important. So I know that you've heard bits and pieces today, but again, I encourage you all to plug in because that's where the real work happens. We cannot move forward unless folks actually weigh in and express their opinions about all the options that we presented to them.
Just on that note, I gave to Louis and your staff, Damien and Raisha. She's gone now. Raisha's accepted. Huh? Well, this man, you heard him, he's a young man from our community. Again, he's the only one that has stepped up as a man. I know you're still going through the list, but there's not that many men that are residents that are even really participating.
Last time I checked,
Yes. I don't know. We had a list of 3 residents.
Last time I checked, I was a man.
I'm sorry?
The last time I checked, I was a man.
That's not what you said. Oh,
I'm talking about that's a resident. Okay.
So, we had a list of 3 residents. We approached them. We had a strategy for how we approached them. Raisha has said yes. After I talked to you, I spoke to Louis about expanding resident seats on the council to accommodate any issues that potentially come. So I'm going to finish that conversation with him. I will let you know where that stands because I heard you loud and clear.
So again, I want to thank everybody for coming. This has been much longer than we expected, but it is important that we get all this information out so that they can do what they need to do on the housing side We are clear on rumors and myths on the working group side. And again, I encourage you to participate, particularly in the meeting next week and ones moving forward. I believe we have 3 to 4 meetings left. And so these are going to be very, very important meetings. I promise you that we will do everything in our power to end on time with those particular meetings moving forward.
So you're talking about 3 or 4 working group meetings, or
Correct.
3 or 4 meetings like this?
No, 3 or 4 working group meetings.
Okay.
And to that end, I'm open outside of this process. I'm open to meet whenever anybody wants to talk.
I'll come talk to you.
Yeah. And again, be it we have a resident council that holds meetings. You know, but if there's a need for us to get together outside of this process,
No way everybody can fit in that one little room that was here tonight.
well, we can come over here and do it. We can go somewhere else and do it. But I just wanted to be clear that we're open to talk. Okay, thank you.
Give me a card. I'll come by and see you one day.